Yeah, they looked all right. Now, you just mentioned something academic that the university can handle, and that's a perfect segue into our next topic. The University of Notre Dame's academic probe happened, I think it's about maybe a week or so ago, maybe a couple weeks, so we're literally on the story, but the details are still developing. 5 Fighting Irish football players have been dismissed from the football program in regards to academic fraud, and it's an investigation currently going on with the school. Head coach Brian Kelly does not have any part in this investigation as part of like finding out the players and stuff like that. He's just dealing with the consequences. But 5 Fighting Irish football players suspended, and there may be more to come. Mike, what's your reaction to this?
It's sad. I guess we should preface this saying that the 2 people who are doing the podcast cannot stand Notre Dame. So, so I guess if you're looking for sympathy about Notre Dame, you might not get it on the Strictly Business podcast. But, it's sad. I will say that, first of all, Everett Golston, the now quarterback of Notre Dame, he missed all last season after being caught cheating on a test last year. So this isn't the first time that Notre Dame's kind of been hit with this type of scandal. It was announced, like you said, it was announced on Thursday that I think backup safety, I think Hardy is the guy's last name.
Yep, exactly.
Will be the fifth guy to. I don't think they're just dismissed from the team. I just think they're held out of practice. They're going to held out of practice and competition as I guess they inquire about the school's academic scandal. So they're not really dismissed from the team. I think they're held out of practice because they really didn't get hit with any wrongdoing yet. But I will say that as much as I hate Notre Dame, at least they're showing that they value academics over athletics.
Exactly.
And what I'm saying is that how many schools, we don't know how many schools try to hide stuff like this, especially in these big-time football programs where football is everything. In some places, like Texas, the college football team is more important than the professional football team. So you really don't know how much sketchy stuff is going on in the athletic department. So at least Notre Dame is showing that, look, even our prominent football program isn't above what we're trying to do for the University of Notre Dame. So I actually give them credit for kind of coming down on the players.
Yeah, I think it's great that the president of Notre Dame, John Jenkins, stated that he was initially notified of the situation at the end of the past summer session. It was referred to the compliance office on July 29th, and the investigation went on from there. So, it's interesting to me because the president says the range of punishments for this type of violation can be an F on the assignment, an F on the course, or dismissal from the school. Now, the question to me is how many people are involved in this academic fraud? How many people are having papers written for them and stuff like that? Because I think the higher the number, the less likely it's going to be dismissal from the school. There's already 5 football players from a pretty prominent football program. I don't think dismissal from the school is going to happen. So I'm curious to see what the punishment is going to be. What do you think it should be?
Well, they're clearly not going to play football again. I think that's going to be that's probably going to be one of their things, at least 2. Maybe they get suspended from the team to get their grades up, or try to make up the credits. That I don't know if they're going to take the credits away from the classes that they had these papers in, or the classes that they cheated on. Mm-hmm. So it really could be a lot of things. We know the NCAA is kind of it's kind of a shot out of the dark about what they're going to do because they take it each problem at a time. So it's really they're really not consistent with their punishment. It really could be anything. But what I'm trying to figure out is Brian Kelly going to maintain his job as the head coach of the team?
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point because it's the second time, as you mentioned, that this has happened. And Notre Dame, I think, is expected not to compete for the college playoff this year by any means. They have a fairly tough schedule, and many people are only seeing 8 to 9 wins for them this year, which is not going to be nearly enough. The big thing for me is I don't think this is happening just at Notre Dame or throughout the country. I think it's happening at other places, whether the other places know it or not. But I think for it to be at a primarily academic institution is really big, because in the institution itself has put education before athletics, and that doesn't happen very often at all when it's a big Division I program. So I'm with you in giving credit to the Irish. But my question is, say they take the credits away. These players are on scholarship. They're there for 4 years. They're pretty much paid for. Are they going to make them pay for the semester of the credits that they missed? Like, I'm curious to see the consequences of that, if that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I mean, I don't know how we can gauge on what's going to happen. I think we have to figure out how many players it is, kind of like you said, because it's only 5. It'll be easy to kind of maintain and come down on a punishment. But if it comes out that it's, double-digit guys, there's 15, 20 guys that are in this, it's going to be a little harder. And I think the more people that it is on this team, I think it's less likely Brian Kelly is going to come back as a coach. The more players there are, I think the more trouble that Brian Kelly is going to get in, because it's going to be hard to play, Mickey Job and say, oh, I wasn't in charge of that. I don't know. You're the head football coach. You really got to stay on top of your players. And I understand that there's people below you that deal with, the academics of your students, but, the head coach is going to be the scapegoat for players who are in the wrong.
I think I heard Colin Cowherd talking about this on ESPN Radio, and he made the point that a football coach is different from, say, a volleyball or basketball coach, because on that roster you have maybe 15 players, but on a football roster you have over 50, and it's hard to keep track of over 50 players and their academic stuff like that. Where on a volleyball team or softball, it's easier to keep a hands-on approach. So Cowherd kind of defended Kelly a little bit in that aspect, saying, listen, you can't hold Brian Kelly accountable. But I'm kind of with you. I think there's a lot more benefits that come with being a head football coach in a prominent program that gets national attention everywhere. But with that comes also more responsibility to make sure that everyone's in line. And I'm with you that Brian Kelly so far has not done a great job of doing that, especially the past few years with Golston and now these 5 players. So I'm curious to see, and I'm curious to see how well they perform this year, because I also think that'll have a big dictation as to whether or not Kelly plays. Because I think if it's an 8-win season, I think Kelly might be on the hot seat just for the way Notre Dame played, regardless of this academic probation.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the one thing I would say is I would definitely agree with you about, I guess, football players versus basketball players. Obviously, there's way less players. But the one thing I would say is if you are the coach of Notre Dame, where academics are really valued more than a state school, I think that's where Brian Kelly is going to get wrapped up, because he might get away with this at a bigger football program. Football where football is way more, valued than academics, like a Texas or
Alabama,
really anywhere else. But not here, not at Notre Dame. And I think they want to kind of prove that, look, even the Notre Dame football team isn't bigger than what we're trying to do here at Notre Dame for our students. So, like I said, the more players that are going to get wrapped up in this, I think the more problems that Brian Kelly is going to face. And you're right. Have you seen their schedule? Their schedule isn't easy this year. Unlike previous years, they're actually playing teams this year, and it's gonna be a hard season. Despite all of the noise that's happening on off the field, on the field isn't going to be easy either. So they're not going to play Rice every week. It's going to be a tough season for them. So they're going to get a couple L's on their schedule. So with the so-so season that it looks like that they're going to have, plus this academic scandal, it's going to be tough for Brian Kelly to keep the job.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at Notre Dame's schedule. They beat Rice pretty easily, 48-17 week 1. But then they play Michigan, Purdue, Syracuse, all games that they can win because Michigan's down this year, same with Purdue, and Syracuse, not a very good football team. But then they play Stanford, North Carolina, Florida State, Navy, Arizona State, Northwestern, Louisville, USC. Those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 games I could see Notre Dame losing. Those are games that Notre Dame could possibly lose, those last 8 games. It's going to be a really tough season for them.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough because, Stanford obviously is a very tough game. North Carolina has proved that they can win games in the ACC. Florida State, one of the best college football teams in the country. Obviously, winners last year, very good this year, and we'll get into that later. at Navy, still an away game, and then they have to go. So they're playing 3 straight road games at Florida State, at Navy, at Arizona State. When they get to Arizona State, they're going to be tired as can be. Then they finally play a Northwestern team who can play a little bit. And then they go, and then Louisville's playing Miami right now, and they're playing pretty well so far tonight. So they're pretty good. And obviously USC, like we said, they're a pretty good football team. So at the very least, I see Notre Dame with 4 losses, and I think it's being generous.
Yeah, I think so too. And don't forget, Navy gave Ohio State a game in week 1. They had Urban Meyer a little bit nervous. So don't sleep on Navy either. That triple option's deadly.
I do want to get into one more thing before we cut off, is when we talked about handling football versus basketball, because there's another thing that we haven't really talked about, and it was the UNC situation, University of North Carolina basketball, because this is one thing that I think with Notre Dame handling it right now, it's kind of erasing or stopping, preventing is the word. It's preventing what UNC is going through right now, and that's Rashad McCants, the former, unfortunately, national champion of North Carolina when they won in 2005, basketball player who had obviously had some really, really tough comments about his academic history at UNC and how he was treated, and now they are looking into it. So I think one thing that Notre Dame is preventing is somebody talking about their academic history at Notre Dame. You know what I mean? So at least for this, I think Notre Dame's handling it fine, because they see what's happening for North Carolina right now that not only has to do with the North Carolina National Championship team in 2005, with if they really want to look into, those wins can get vacated, and it's also football players from that time as well. So North Carolina is really going through something tough right now, and that's one thing Notre Dame is trying to prevent.
Yeah, I mean, just to recap what McCants said, he said that he had papers written for him and that there were no-show classes that helped keep him eligible. There were classes that were supposed to meet maybe once every 2 weeks. The professor would just cancel a class and everyone would just get an A. That's what he means by no-show. So, granted, I don't think Notre Dame is dealing with that big of a thing, no-show classes, because I don't think Notre Dame professors would do that. I think that institution too fine academically to stoop to that level. Not saying North Carolina's not a good school, but I'm saying Notre Dame is a step above them. So, I mean, it's a great point that's kind of overshadowing what's going on with North Carolina. And I'm wondering that if the investigations will kind of merge into something that the NCAA will look to maybe create punishments for on a uniform level of this academic fraud.
Yeah, because the more this stuff happens, I think it's getting pretty bad. It really is getting pretty bad, because people are trying to do anything to win nowadays, and the NCAA really needs to kind of show uniformity in this, because more and more schools are coming out and doing this, and it really is a problem, obviously, with these big-name schools like North Carolina and Notre Dame who bring in such a revenue for TV revenue and all the money that goes into their athletic department and every team, and that's when they really, the NCAA really cares, because they don't want any money getting pulled from their pocket when it comes to from the TV revenue side.
That is incredibly true. So a lot of things going on in college football. We will get into a little bit later our highlights from week 1 of college football, but that opening segment, Josh Shaw is in a little bit of trouble, along with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football team. So both Notre Dame and USC performed well on the